I think it's really cool how many range finding bino options are coming onto the market now, and to be honest, a lot of them are really good. But for those that haven't used range finding binos, in my mind, range finding binos with a ballistic solver is an absolute game changer when it comes to hunting. It just so greatly increases your capabilities. It makes everything quicker, easier, being able to range deer, elk. Like if an animal walks out, being able to be in your binos and range it and get your data and just then put it away and get your gun out is just it's a huge time saver. Botnia Solutions makes unbelievably high performing muzzle brakes. Their brakes use low ground blast angles for a reduced dust signature, controlled gas exit design for a smooth impulse and stable recoil, and upward facing ports that apply downward force without introducing disruptive vibrations. I absolutely love my Botnia brakes. I've been running the Maxi and MIDI on my PRS and hunting rifles and couldn't be happier. If you want the most out of recoil control, look no further than the Botnia brakes. Use code BOTNIA on phalanx-arms.com for 10% off. Raven Rifles produces artwork that shoots. Their custom Lurk Cerakote pattern provides depth and color that most patterns just dream of. From Snow Wolf to Copperhead, you'll be able to blend in wherever you end up. And their limited release rifles truly are a functional work of art. They're available in limited numbers and guaranteed to catch your eyes. I absolutely love the Lurk pattern. I've had it on my Really Right Stuff tripod for a while and getting most of my rifles redone in it right now. If you want to see more, go to ravenrifles.com. Hawkins Precision provides precision hunting rifle components built to help you go further and shoot farther. From rock-solid optics mounting solutions born out of the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to their Hunter bottom metal and flush magazine systems, Hawkins has a solution for your next hunting rifle build. When every shot counts, hunt with Hawkins. Guys, I've been running with Hawkins on all my rifles for a long time, from their one-piece mounts to their heavy tack rings to their ultralight rings, their bottom metals, their Hunter bottom metals, and everything's been great. Next time you're getting a new rifle put together, go with Hawkins. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Red, White, and Moose, the show where we talk about guns, hunting, life, and get to joke around and have some fun. Welcome back to another episode. And man, what a freaking weekend for college football. Aggies are undefeated, 5-0, number 5 in the nation coming into this weekend. And the thing that makes it just so much sweeter is Texas is back where they belong, 3-2, unranked. It just warms my heart that, I mean, we're cooking, we're rocking along. I'm stoked to see the Ags finally putting together a good season. I hope it at least turns out somewhat decent and isn't just another typical letdown. But for now, Ags are on top. Texas sucks. I love it. So the other thing, reminder, next weekend is the one-day NRL Hunter match at Caprock Rifle Club down in Brownfield. I'll be going, should be testing this weekend, taking the 6 PRC. I've got a shit ton of the 109 ELDMs. I'm going to figure out and take down there. And then they're doing a hunter style pistol match right after. I'm going to take this Glock 17, and my goal is hopefully win the rifle match and not embarrass myself in the pistol match. So, but should be a good time. And we were supposed to have a guest this week. He couldn't make it, so we're gonna have him on here in a few weeks. He was getting ready for a hunt, and it got me thinking. Hunting season's rocking and rolling, and I think it's really interesting just kind of looking at some of the things that I've experienced over the last few years as I've grown in my shooting career and gear and capabilities and then just also with the trends of what's going on. And so I wanted to talk about kind of the crossover of bring like a precision rifle and precision rifle equipment and what used to be thought of only as competitive gear now making its way into modern day hunting rifles and setups. And so honestly, the big thing what we're kind of looking at is something like that's down here on the bottom. So this is the gun I took on the bear hunt, a modernized new gear, not your stereotypical, grandpappy's 30-06 kind of hunting rifle. Really, it comes down to, the capability. It's the capabilities and reliability, and the capabilities of a rifle like that. And I'll go over a couple other I've got going right now, but it's got a folding stock, a phenomenal bipod. It's lightweight. It's got a great scope on it. Anyways, it's just the capabilities of something like that versus just your traditional woodstock basic hunting rifle, with like a old school like 3 to 9, or just what our parents or grandparents grew up using, and just the reliability, the tolerances and the materials and the technology used to make this stuff nowadays, and it's just phenomenal. So then we'll kind of break down into some of this gear and stuff here in a little bit, but then this is one I don't want to go super deep into it because everyone's got their own flavor or whatever, but cartridge and bullet selection. Luckily and unluckily, I guess we live in an age where we have a cartridge for literally anything. We can get pretty much any bullet to go whatever speed we need to very comfortably. But if you take a look at some of the modern stuff, we're not really using the old Spire Point bullets anymore. You've got, good modern sleek hunting bullets and modernized cartridges. And, if you look at, especially, like, I love some of these modern cartridges, and not that the old ones are bad by any means. They've done a phenomenal job forever. You look at like a 7 PRC versus like a 7 rim mag, or a 300 PRC versus a 300 Win Mag, or like a 6 Creed versus a 243. It's all just optimized. You're going to get better twist rates, better free bores to allow for better, sleeker bullets. And, you can hit certain speeds, much easier with some of this new stuff. And so it's just, and I'm going to preface all this with, I'm not trying to, you got to use your brain on this. Okay. So how you hunt, and how far you're going to shoot, and what your setup is, and da 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 da, and whether, so apply it to what fits you. But there are just, it's exciting. And I love, one of my favorite things about hunting season is like deer camp, and, getting around and to, sit and bullshit with people that you're with. And, I'm friends with a lot of gun guys, and we always end up, talking rifles, and, if there's new people or stuff, it's just always interesting to take a look at, where things started, and where they're at. But on the topic of cartridge selection, one thing I've noticed is it seems like a lot of the current marketing in the hunting world is a lot of these bigger cartridges, like the 7 PRC and the 300 PRC, and some things like that. And I think it's worth noting, potentially taking a look at smaller cartridges, with the caveat that you have the shooting skills to be able to put that shot where it needs to. So, there are tons of benefits to these big cartridges. I mean, I love them. They're super fun to shoot. They have their place. But, just because you can shoot something at 1,000 yards or whatever doesn't mean you have to, or, should set up for it. Like, there's, I still would like to get as close of a shot as I can. And, the reality is, a lot of shots are going to be 100, 200, 300 yards. And, these big cartridges, they buck the wind better. They're going to give you forgiveness on shot placement, and, deliver more energy. And there's, like I said, a lot of pluses for it. But for the average guy, I don't necessarily think that is the best fit. And not to say it's an apples to apples comparison, but I'm sure we've all seen where you go to your local gun shop, and a small framed individual, or a young lady, or a woman comes in, and some bud is like, well, hands her this snub nose 357 or something, and that it's just going to be the worst shooting experience for them. They're going to shoot it once, hate it, never carry it. It's I can kind of relate that to the same thing, where to the average guy that hunting season rolls in, grabs his rifle, grabs a box of ammo, goes and shoots it a couple times, makes sure it's zeroed, and heads to the blind or whatever, something similar. That isn't shooting a 6, 7, 8 pound
ergonomic, large Magnum cartridge, it's gonna develop, bad shooting habits. You could anticipate the recoil, you could flinch, and to top it off, just being able to control the rifle, see where you hit, understand what's going on. It's just it can lead to things, like I said, just bad habits and bad shooting experiences. And worst case, say you flinch and pull a bad shot, injure an animal, and it jumps up and you didn't see where you hit, and you come back and the animal's just running off and you have no idea what happened, and you've got you see what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying you need to go little bitty, but if you have a 7 PRC or 300 PRC, and you're it's not the funnest thing in the world to shoot, take a look at the 6.5 PRC, or even a 6.5 Creed. Here in Texas, there's a ton, everything's private land, and it's a ton of blind hunting and things like that. And especially, and I know it is like a lot on like the, more wooded states, but if you have your max shots 150 yards or 200 yards, like I'm going to take this 22 saw hunting this year. I took the 22 Creed out last year. I'll take the 6 PRC hunting this year. Some of these, just higher velocity cartridges do exceedingly well in hunting, but it is a little bullet, so it just needs to be put where it needs to go. But they're fun to shoot though, especially in hunting. Shooting this 22 Creed or 22, I mean, there's zero recoil. It makes it very pleasant. So it's just something to, put in the back of your mind. I think it's worth taking a look at. I think people get a little too bogged down in cartridge selection a lot, but like the seven saw that I shoot in a ton of stuff. I mean, you could do damn near anything in North America with it, and it's just a short action standard bolt face cartridge. So, anyways, but I love it.
Foundation Hunting Stocks has combined three unique materials, micarta, carbon fiber, and Kevlar, to create their new hybrid line of stocks. This combines the stiffness and lightness of carbon fiber with the impact resistance, toughness, and vibration dampening of the Kevlar. The micarta bedding block allows them to machine the precise inlets and seating surfaces that they're known for. Guys, I've been using Foundation stocks for years, and I love that dead recoil impulse that they have. And now being able to bring that same dead feeling into a hunting stock that's light enough to hunt the backcountry is pretty remarkable. Guys, go to Phalanx-Arms and use the code HYBRID for 10% off Foundation stocks. Lone Peak Arms provides precision rifle shooters with extreme accuracy through their actions. Whether you're building a hunting or competition rifle, their Fusion or Razor actions are the perfect foundation. Both actions are available in short or long, left or right configurations, and in stainless or titanium. Guys, I've beat the crap out of my Lone Peak actions in sandy, muddy, freezing conditions, and they're stainless and titanium, and they've just kept on ticking. Your next rifle you get going, use a Lone Peak, and they're available at westtexasordnance.com. Alpha Munitions delivers the brass that top shooters trust. Their proprietary OCD technology represents the first major advancement in brass manufacturing in decades. Engineered to provide unmatched consistency and strength, with OCD brass, shooters experience less plastic deformation under identical loads, resulting in extended brass life, superior pressure retention, and consistency across multiple firings. Alpha Munitions sets the gold standard for precision rifle brass, crafted for those who measure to the thousandth and weigh to the kernel. Guys, I use Alpha Munitions brass in damn near everything I do. I use it for competing, for hunting, in my business. I love it. From piece to piece, lot to lot, cartridge to cartridge. It's been fantastic. Guys, go use code MOOSE for 10% off at Phalanx-Arms on Alpha Munitions brass. The West Texas Ordnance Switch Lug is a patented quick change barrel system that allows caliber and capability changes in minutes without the need of a barrel vise or an action wrench. It allows for precise, repeatable return to zero within plus or minus half MOA. It allows the use of one rifle platform with multiple barrels to perform a variety of tasks. And it can be used on short or long actions and standard or Magnum cartridges. Guys, I've got switch lugs on most of my rifles, and it just makes switching barrels incredibly easy. One of my favorite things being able to do with it is being able to have a rifle and be able to switch from something, say like a 22 Creed to a 6.5 PRC in the field with just a barrel and bolt swap and no barrel vise needed. Guys, check out West Texas Ordnance and their switch lug system.
But going on, so then moving up to the scope, this is where a big part of where I think the capabilities of a rifle can greatly be extended using the right type of scope. So I have Colossus on all of these. I either have Colossus or Leupold's on all my hunting rifles. But you take like this 328s. So I've got a 540 getting put together on one. But so with something like this, you get exposed turrets that are great, very repeatable. You get great light transmission, big field of view, and and in my opinion, very, very, very useful reticles. So where I like that because especially if you once you develop and build your skill set to confidently shoot to even a little bit of an extended range, having something like that and knowing your data and being able to find it, range it, know your have your data dial and know exactly that it's going to go there versus holding the top of its back or showing air underneath or whatever it is and just taking a guess, and it can work in a pinch, and I've done it, and it gets done every year. But having the confidence and the ability to accurately dial elevation, I think is key. Plus, then you get, the great light transmission and, some things like that. And they're just they're just way more feature rich scopes than your standard hunting scope. Great parallax adjustment. Anyways, I love them, and I love these 328s on a hunting rifle. They do really, really, really well. And the reticles, even so, all of these, call them tactical, practical type scopes, whether, mil, MOA, what, in regards to reticles and turrets, you're not going to have something like a BDC reticle where, and BDCs, they can definitely be used, if you know them, you know how to use them properly, but you're going to be able to dial elevation, or you're going to have a reticle that has a vertical stadia that you can hold over, and if you're dialing, you're going to have good wind graduations on your horizontal axis, where a lot of standard hunting scopes, in my opinion, don't have good wind subtensions. They'll either be non-existent or just way too big and not really useful. So that's, and like I said, I'm coming from this, from my perspective, I live this, day in and day out. But even if you still like the, more traditional style of, looking hunting rifle, putting something like one of these scopes on it, honestly, I think it's a must for most hunting guns. It just makes everything so much easier. Anyways, then bipods. I think bipods are huge. It still blows my mind that so many hunting rifles don't have bipods, especially in like I said, today's age. There's so many good options that either one, they weigh a little bit more, like the triple pull, but you can do so much with them, or there's great lightweight options. The new Backlands bipods that we talked about are, they're pretty dang light and have great capability. Or even something like just a Harris. It's great stability and they don't weigh that much. But just being able to, lay down, go prone, throw it over a hood or, on a rock or whatever, I think it's a must. I think it's really cool how many range finding bino options are coming onto the market now, and to be honest, a lot of them are really good. But for those that haven't used range finding binos, in my mind, range finding binos with a ballistic solver is an absolute game changer when it comes to hunting. It just so greatly increases your capabilities. It makes everything quicker, easier, being able to range deer, elk, like if an animal walks out, being able to be in your binos and range it and get your data and just then put it away and get your gun out is just it's a huge time saver. It's very accurate. Or like if you're getting ready to, like if you're setting up a coyote stand and you get set up and you got your binos, you can, range, all 5-6 different spots. This place is 300, 500, 400, whatever it is. So then when they run in, then you already know how far it is, what your data is for that distance. But, one, it's the big thing, they're going to be a higher magnification and you're using both eyes. Most standard rangefinders, you're going to have like a 5 to 8 power magnification, where most of the range finding binos are going to be 8 to 12s, with most of them being 10s or 12s, and just being able to use both hands when you're holding it, both eyes when you're looking at it. It's way more stable, it's way easier to find. And then when you're, if you're glassing an animal, you don't have to put away your binos, remember where he was at, bring up your rangefinder that's at, now using half the field of view, half the magnification, find it using one hand, shake it. It's just so much better. And then being able to use, if you have one with a ballistic solver in it, it just makes it very, very easy. Really, the only, I guess, trick to using range finding binos is, they're all going to have some sort of reticle in them, whether it's a, standard like crosshair or a circle or whatever it is, but there's going to be a hot spot somewhere in that. And so, for example, I use these Swaro EL ranges. These are the 10s, and it's got a circle reticle in it. And the hot spot in that reticle where my laser is actually hitting is at the exact 6 o'clock of that circle. And so whenever I'm ranging an animal or a target, I'm putting the bottom of that circle on it. So, and it's really easy to find. Honestly, the way I do it, just walk out into your neighborhood, find a yield sign or stop sign or whatever, start high, just start ranging and bring it down, and then you'll see where it actually starts ranging the sign, and then you know how high it is into it. Then you go below it, start ranging, same thing, do it left and do it right, and then you narrow it down, and then you can see where your hotspot is. Then from there you're good to go, and it makes ranging really, really easy. And then if you do have the ballistic solving binos, so for example, again on these EL ranges, they just have an app on your phone, and you can go through and you can put in multiple gun profiles, but then you put in your ammo information, like your velocity, your BC, whether you can put G1 or G7. Some of them have applied ballistics in them. These don't. I wish they did, but the Swaro ballistics is very accurate and easy to use. But yeah, you finish putting your ammo information in, like height over bore, a couple other things. Then you put in your environmental data, and I'll spin up my Kestrel wherever I'm at, input it, or if I'm going to travel, I'll use like Weather Underground and check the forecast. And but you input that, and it's always very, 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 very close. And then I'll just tweak it a little bit to get it to line up exactly with my Kestrel, but make a few tweaks, and then you're good to go. And then I can get them to line up well past 1,000 yards, and it makes it very, very easy. So it can seem intimidating a little bit getting into it, like there's a lot going on, but they're very, very easy to use, and honestly a must have now that I have them. And I'll go over I've got a story here in a minute that just absolutely sold me on them. But then the other thing is a shooting bag. So for those in the competition scene, shooting bags are no new thing. For the guys that aren't in it, it's honestly one of the best, cheapest things you can buy to throw in your hunting pack. They're just lightweight bags. I always use Weebad bags. I use the Tater Tot with the heavy fill for competing, and then I use the Tater Tot with the Specs Light fill, which is their light fill for hunting, and a rear bag in competition. But and I like the bigger bags, it's because they're so light. But the full size Tater Tot is like 1.5 pounds. So it doesn't weigh anything. You can throw it in your bag. You can throw a carabiner on it, clip it to your belt, the back of your pack or something like that. But like if you're in a blind, you can throw it on the window, throw your binos on it, and then you're not shaking while you're glassing and stuff. And then when you're ready, you can throw your gun on it, shoot off of it. Or if you're on a spot and stock type hunt, you can same thing, but you can throw it on a tree or a rock or something. Then you've got something to glass off of, something to shoot off of. You got a rear bag if you go prone. They cost, depending on the size, $70 to $100. And if you wanted to go smaller or lighter, like the micro Tater Tot, I think is like 3/4 pound. So they're super cheap, and honestly the most useful thing that you can throw in your pack, but it's just not super common outside of the match and competition worlds. If you haven't seen them, check them out. They're worth their weight in gold. Then tripods. So like I said, I use this Really Right Stuff tripod up here. It's it's the TVC 22i, I think is the model of it, but it's the 2-piece inverted full size tripod. And tripods are just game changer for hunting, being able to glass anywhere, being able to shoot anywhere. And especially, so honestly, I prefer these two-piece inverted tripods. They're just so unbelievably sturdy, and they're super quick to set up. I still like some of the three-piece, 3 and 4 piece tripods, but I encourage people to take a look at especially the two-piece inverted versions, but even just some of these bigger diameter carbon fiber tripod options. Leo Photo is making a tremendous amount of good options right now, and then Really Right Stuff makes some great options as well if that's in your price. But there's, I think these, uber light, uber small, super compact tripods, they definitely have their place. Especially for glassing. If you're mountain hunting or something like that and you just have to save weight, what, like, it definitely, I get it. But if you don't just absolutely have to crunch or eliminate weight and watch your ounces, just having going up like the 3 series tripods from Really Right Stuff, like they're great. And these two piece legs, it's insane. They don't there's no torsion in it. They don't twist. It's just they're rock solid, and I absolutely love shooting from them. And they're so light. It's crazy. But if the Really Right Stuff is out of your budget, the some of the Leo Photo stuff is just fantastic. And they're not quite as light, but they have some very, very solid shooting or tripods for shooting off of. But getting into, so I wanted to go over some of the gear that I really think makes a difference when you're getting into, bringing this precision rifle concept into hunting, or if you're, just long range hunting. But if so, say you go and get all this stuff. Now, what do you do with it? So the biggest thing I think people can do, or one of the biggest things, is having a Kestrel and understanding how to use it. So I've got mine. I just keep mine in the side pocket on my bino harness. I use the version with applied ballistics. Absolutely love it. Crazy how accurate these things are, and they weigh nothing. They're tiny, and it's just taken with you. But having this, you've got every possible shooting solution at your fingertips, and you're not just guessing. And it's so easy. Once you have your rifle zeroed, run it out, true this up, and you're good to go. I'm not going to get into like truing everything, but getting into the understanding your Kestrel, truing everything out. But then, especially in a hunting scenario where if say you're using some of these, solid coppers, any of these monolithics that require a minimum velocity to expand, you've got all of that data um, in here. Or if you have a certain cutoff, you want to have a certain amount of like remaining energy or something, you can find what distance that is or something like that. But they're very, very useful. Then once you get all this lined out, you have your range finding binos with the ballistic solver. You true that up, you're good to go. Then one thing, if you don't always have time, to have run or set up the shot in your Kestrel in a hunting scenario, there's a few ways to get around that. Say like for NRL Hunter, we run arm boards that have data cards at all of the matches, and I'll use binos for my elevation data, and then I'll try to get a win solution in my head, and then if I need to verify, I can take a look at my arm board. So that's a great way. If you want to put it, carry an arm board, put it on your stock. What that's been done for decades. Or one thing that I've found to be super handy is knowing your gun number. And it's not an end all be all type of thing, but it is a really handy solution to figuring out a quick wind hold. And so if you don't know what it is, your gun number is whatever mile an hour wind it takes to hit a particular wind hold at a certain distance. So, for example, if you have a 5 mile an hour gun, it's a 3/10 hold at 300 yards, a 4/10 hold at 400 yards, 5/10 at 500 yards, so on and so forth. If it's a 7 mile an hour gun at 7 miles an hour full value wind, 300 yards is 3/10, 400 yards is 4/10, and so on and so forth. So essentially what that means, the bigger the number, the more efficient your gun is in the wind. And then if you take something like windrows, and I'll show you right here, I'll put it up on the screen here. So what I mean by a full value wind is where it's coming from a complete 90 degrees from the shot. So a 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We're going to go off 3 o'clock for this example. But if you look in this ring right here, this second ring, and this is on sniper's hide. So this 100%. So from a full value, you have 100% of the wind effect. At 2:30, it's 96%. 2 o'clock, it's 86%. 1:30, it's 70%. 1 o'clock is 50. 12:30 is 25%, and a straight up headwind is 0%. So this is a very helpful, handy tool to use and to memorize. Where I like, and like I said, this is where I use it as a good generalization tool. There's guys that get way too into this a little bit, I think, but where the way I like to use it. So a full value wind is 100%. A 2:30, it's 96%. I call it 100% in my head. 2 o'clock, it's 86%. In my head, I call it 90%. Or if I'm super, or if it's a small win value or something like that, I just call it 100% again. Then was where once it gets to like 1:30 is where it really starts, where you can start using this easily. But 70%, I call it 75% in my head. I can just take a quarter off of it. Then you get 1 o'clock's 50, and then 12:30 is 25. So where that comes in handy. So I'll give you an example. So say, and I'm going to use this as a very, very easy example. Say we have a 10-mile-an-hour gun and we have a 10-mile-an-hour full value wind or coming from the 3 o'clock at 400 yards. That because we have a 10-mile-an-hour gun and it's blowing 10 miles an hour, we know it's exactly that. At 400 yards, we're going to have a 4/10 hold. Okay. Now, where that wind rose comes in handy, say it's a 1 o'clock wind, so it's 50%. Then we say, okay, we've got a 10-mile-an-hour gun, 10-mile-an-hour wind, but it's coming from the 1 o'clock, so it's only a half value at 400 yards. If it was a full value wind, we know it would be 4/10, but because it's a half value, it's 2/10. Hopefully, y'all are keeping up. If not, rewind it. So take it into a more realistic example. They say we have like a 7-mile-an-hour gun, and we have a 8-mile-an-hour wind coming from the 12:30. Okay, so we know it's coming from 12:30, so it's going to be a 25% or a quarter value, and 8-mile-an-hour wind. We have a 7-mile-an-hour gun. It's pretty much there, or it's there plus a tiny little bit. So like I said, this is where my quick math rounding comes in handy. But so say then we're looking at 600 yards. If it was, so we've got a 7-mile-an-hour gun, 8-mile-an-hour wind at 600 yards, it would be 6/10 plus a little bit. But then we take a quarter value of it. So a quarter of 6/10 is a 1/10.5. We had a little bit extra, plus we would round up from a 1/10.5. We get 2/10. So that's where it just comes in really handy. And that it's nice for, you need to make a quick shot or something like that. It's a really good way to get you pretty dang close. Now, it doesn't take into account spin drift. If you want to super nerd into it, you're probably going to have about a tenth of spin drift out to, 500, 600 yards or so, and then 2/10 out to about 1,000, depending on your distance and which way the wind is blowing. You can take that into account. But so that's where I say it's a really good estimation. So there's things to take into account, but hopefully that really helps. And if you can go back, and there's tons of videos and people explaining it, but hopefully that'll help. And if you haven't heard of that, start just running fake scenarios through your head, like what we just went through, and you can get pretty quick at it. But so I'm gonna out myself because I missed this. I'm gonna tell you a couple stories, and this is where I saw firsthand, especially some of these more hunting related items becoming very helpful. But this is a few years ago, and I'd been shooting PRS for a little bit. I had my fundamentals down. I had, good a good skill set built, but I hadn't started shooting NRL Hunter yet, and I didn't have mainly range finding binos. That was a big deal. But I was hunting in Oklahoma, and I was sitting in a blind, and it was real foggy, overcast, kind of drizzling, just real dark. Um, and sun was going down in like 20 minutes, and I see this buck, determined that I'm going to shoot him, and I had just my regular binoculars, and I was watching him on this hillside. I tried to take a landmark, but he was just in the middle of this big hillside, and there was just scattered mesquite trees every 20, 30 yards. So I tried to take a good reference to it, and and they were 12 power binos. Put those out, got my rangefinder out, and it was a 6 power rangefinder. And going from high quality glass in my binos that were 12 power to glass and that's 6 power, and those types of lighting conditions sucked. And so long story short, I missed my first shot. I can't tell if I still don't know if I just ranged the wrong area, or if the fog and drizzling and stuff caused the rangefinder to mess up. But I ranged him at 475, I think it was, and I shot and watched it go right over his back, and he turned and looked at the hill, and I was like, shit. And I dialed down a few tenths, shot, got him, and he went down. And so that was actually the first shot I'd ever missed on like a big game animal. And so it infuriated me. I was pissed and just frustrated with myself because I was too good of a shooter to do something like that. And so fast forward a little bit to earlier this year, and been shooting a lot of NRL Hunter, gotten all my stuff, and we were doing the West Texas Big Bobcat competition, and we were on a stand, and one of the guys, we had a coyote come in at like 170 yards or something. One of the guys shot him, and we were watching to make sure he went down. And then I was glassing back behind, and I saw another one in the distance, and it was a pup just sitting down, and I could see from about his shoulders up. Ranged him at like, I think it was 411. And I had my 22 Creed dialed, did the quick math. I think I held 2 tenths, sent it, and he went down and got over there, and it was just I was pumped because it was perfect middle of his neck and right at shoulder height, which is the lowest point I could see above the grass. And so it went exactly where I wanted to. And so and when that happened, I was like, man, and I literally instantly thought back to when I missed that deer, and I was like, man, it's unbelievable how quick and efficient you can get when you get this right gear, and you get some reps and get some practice with it. So say you go down the rabbit hole, you get the gear and all that. So the biggest thing, just get your fundamentals down first. Figure out a good trigger pull, your breathing, setup, all that stuff. Figure out how to understand your rifle, your ammo, your ballistics, all that fun stuff. Once you've got that down, start shooting. Go to your local gun club, start shooting long distance, and just get some practice. Just the more you can do it, the more reps you can get, the more proficient you'll be at handling recoil, seeing trace, seeing where you hit on target, measuring, being able to make adjustments, understanding, the full system. Once you start getting that down, and this is assuming you don't want to go to competitions. If you're interested in competitions, PRS and NRL is some of the funnest stuff I've done. It's incredibly fun, a great group of people, and it will 100% make you a better shooter incredibly fast. If you don't want to do that, if you're not interested in that, then just start shooting positional. Get one of these shooting bags and just start practicing. Find a range or land that you can practice shooting positionally at, or you can do dry fire practice at your house. But that's the next big step, is just figuring out how to build a good position off of whatever it is that you're presented to. Then honestly, the next thing, doing one shot drills from there, especially if you're in the concept of hunting, You can have your have your backpack on, have your bino harness on, and just run reps, dropping your bag, getting your tripod out, ranging a target, getting your gun out and shooting, and seeing, being able to make the correction, see where you hit, blah blah blah, and reset. And doing the full, it's not going to take too many reps to just get quick at getting the bag off, figuring out where things go to get access to them quickly and stuff like that. But once you get comfortable with like your backpack gear, then just shed that part and just doing one shot drills. And it's just you can hold your rifle in one hand, your bag in the other, say go, set your bag down, set your rifle down, get on target, shoot, and it's just developing good fundamentals over and over and over again. And if you need to, you can practice ranging, making calls and stuff like that. But just setting that up to do repetitions, it's how you're going to get better and how you're going to get better. But yeah, get good rifle, good ammo, some range finding binos with a ballistic solver, a tripod, shooting bag, and a kestrel. If you once you get those, you can pretty much, I mean, you'll have the ability to set up what you need to the best of your ability. So I hope y'all like that one. That it was I think it's a fun topic, and it's something me and my friends talk about a lot, just gear and trends, and it's a lot of fun. So let me know what you think. Shoot me. So if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. It's the Mike Burtis. Shoot me a message, and I'd love to, I'd love to hear like what your current setup is, or if you're wanting to get a new setup, or if you have questions on range finding binos or tripods or something. I'd love to hear what you think. I think it's really cool. And the trend, it's there's more and more and more guys doing this. The PRS is such a driving force for the cutting edge of technology for this stuff. And rifle components and ammo and just every type of gear. And now with NRL Hunter, for the guys that want to, do this competitively in a hunting setup, it's pretty neat. So let me know what you think. Let me know. I hope everyone has a very good hunting season coming up. I can't freaking wait. I can't believe it's almost here. We got a few weeks essentially. I'm gonna be trying to film some content for the YouTube channel, doing some hunting. I'm gonna do my goal is to try and fill all my deer tags this year. I'm gonna try and do one with the 22 saw, one with the 6 PRC, one with the 25 7 PRC, probably one with a 6 arc. And I don't know what the other one's gonna be. Maybe a 7 PRC, maybe a 300 PRC, just because I know a lot of people have them. I don't know. But let me know if you'd like to see a certain cartridge or something like that. Shoot me a message. But guys, thank you so much. I love you guys for listening. I love the feedback, and I'll see you next week.